to one place to another. So non-locomotor, mao siya ang ones are those where the child stays in place like bending, stretching, turning, and swaying. So mao siya ang non-locomotor skills is kanang magstay ra ka in just one place stays in place rather. Manipulative skills are those that involve projecting and receiving objects like throwing, striking, bouncing, catching, and dribbling. Sama na siya ang manipulative skills. Fine motor development refers to acquiring the ability to use the smaller muscles in the arm, hands, and fingers purposefully. So ang fine motor development is kanang ability to kanang use the arm, hands, and fingers. So for example, picking, squeezing, pounding, and opening things, holding and using the spoon and fork when eating, and buttoning, zipping, and combing, and brushing. So, kapara sa ako ang manghod is 6 years old and 5 years old naman sila. Kabalo na sila kaning mga examples diri sa fine motor development. Kabalo na sila na stage. So, develop different environments provide different experiences with fine motor skills. For example, the availability of information and communication technology in largely urban areas makes younger and younger children proficient in keyboarding and manipulation of the mouse or gaming console like the PlayStation portables or PSP. So for example, sa akong manghod is kanang matingala na lang akong magpapakay kabalo na kay sila mag-operate og mga laptop o cellphone. So grabe na kayo ka-advance ang mga bata karon no. So next please. So preschoolers artistic development. So man yang giingon kagay na ang mga big ideas about the preschooler is they are more artistic. So at heart of the preschooler years is their interest. At heart of the preschooler years is their interest to draw and make other forms of artistic expressions. This form of the fine motor activity is relevant to preschoolers. Victor Lowenfield studied this and came up with the stages drawing in early childhood. So, for example, sa akong manghod is kanang so kaning stage is I will give an example what I observe or what I noticed sa ako ang mga manghod. So stage 1 is scribbling stage. So this stage begins with the large zigzag lines which later become circular markings. Soon discrete shapes are drawn. The child may start to name his or her drawing towards the end of this stage. So scribbling stage, muna siya ang ang first stage. So for example, sa akong manghod is pinakauna nila na drawing is kanang mga zigzag, like kanang mag-circle, mag-drawing sila og mga circle, and then kabalo na po sila unsa na ilahang gidrawing. Pinakauna pa na siyang steps, mga zigzag, mga lines, or mga circular markings. And then the stage 2, pre-schematic stage. So may already include early representations. At this point, adults may be able to recognize the drawings. Children at this stage tend to give the same names to their drawings. So kung unsang ilahang gidrawing, maora pod ang kung unsang ilahang gidrawing is mao tong ilahang ma-identify. Children at this stage tend to give the same names. So drawings usually comprise at a prominent head with basic elements. Later arms, legs, hands, and even facial features are included. So kanang sa stage 2, pre-schematic stage is kanang kabalo na sila. They know how to draw the prominent basic elements like arms, legs, and hands. And even facial features like sa ako ang manghod is hilig man gud sila magdrawing kung unsang magdrawing og kanang mga ilang natan-aw karon sa YouTube kanang kang Momo hilig man gud sila magtan-aw og mga horror god nga mga kuan mga ano na mga karakter Momo kanang sila Granny nga mana lang gipang drawing. So schematic stage na siya ang stage 3. More elaborate scenes are depicted. Children usually draw from experience and exposure. Drawings may include houses, trees, the sun and sky, and people. Initially, they may appear floating in air, but eventually drawings appear to follow a ground line. Also, it is important to remember that the preschooler's representations or drawings does not only involve with fine motor skills but also cognitive skills. Children's drawings allow us to have a glimpse of how they understand themselves and the world around them. So, schematic stage is mo ni siyang kanang it is the stage nga kanang kabalo na sila magdrawing og mga houses kung unsang ilahang na experience or kung unsa ilahang nakit-an. Like for example, akong manghod is magdula man na sila permanente og to ka buka kung unsa ilang nakit-an mao pud ang ilahang gi-drawing. So matingala na lang akong mama kay kabalo na sila mag-drawing og gagmay nga tawo, mag-drawing og mga balay, mga sofa, TV, may ana. So mag-ingan diri nga children's drawing allow us to have a glimpse of how they understand themselves and the world around them. So next please. Preschoolers nutrition and sleep. The kind of nutrition of preschoolers gets has far-reaching effect on his physical growth and development. The preschooler's nutritional status is the result of what nutrients he or she actually takes in check against the nutritional requirements for his or her age. So, kapara sa kumanghod nga si Hana, 6 years old siya is kanang digil siya palabi og kaon og kanang mga tamis kay pag mapalabian siya og mukaon og tamis is kanang magka-tonsil siya. So mao na siya gilikayan ginamo nga mukaon siya og palabi siya kaon og tamis. So obviously having too much or too little both have their negative effects. So mao na siya. Here in our country, we can see the extreme of preschoolers not having enough food and those on the other end of the extreme, where we find preschoolers who are not just overweight but obese. It is important for preschoolers to get sufficient amount of rest and sleep. So, preschoolers benefit from about 10 to 12 hours of sleep each day. It is when they are asleep that vital biological processes that affect physical and cognitive development take place. During play, especially in the dream state, growth hormones are released. Blood supply to the muscles is likewise increased, helping preschoolers regain energy at this state while dreaming. Increased brain activity is also attained. So, as an adult, we must give the preschoolers proper nutrition and sleep. So, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. So next na, the questions will be entertained after the last reporter of chapter 4. Okay, Jamie is raising her hand. Jamie. Okay. Sige,
Thank
sige.
you, ma'am.
Okay.
Madungog ko.
Yes. Very loud.
Yes, I.
So, gross motor skills sa 34 to 48 months, which is ang 1 to 3 years old. So, mo na sila ang ilahang pang buhaton is hops 1 to 3 steps on skips with alternating feet, jumps, and turns. So what? So kung unsa akong na-observe sa ako ang mga igagaw mao pod ang naadagi sa kuan. Examples throws a ball overhead with control of direction or speed. Kicks a ball with control of speed. In fine motor skills, 38 to 48 months, they consistently turn pages of a picture of storybook one page at a time. Purposely copies diagonal lines, purposely copies a square, circles, or other shapes, which is maotong giingon ni Kim earlier nga magdrawing-drawing og zigzag iyahang mga igsuon nga mabuhat gihapon na sa 1 to 3 years old or 3 to 5. Next, 3 to 5. Simple pattern of different basic shapes. Draws a human figure without prompts. Draws a house without prompts using geometric forms. Colors with strokes staying within the lines. Next.
Mante.
Personal care and hygiene. Self-help skills. 40, 36 to 48 months. Pours from pitcher without spillage. Feeds self using spoon without spillage. Dresses without assistance except for buttons and tying laces. Put on socks independently. So kung unsa inyong unsa ning mga kuan diri mabuhat ni sa 1 to 3 years old na mga bata kay sa kanang mo na ilahang mga skills bitaw karon nga magtahay magnaay tubig sa kuan sa lamisa. Then napay isa ka baso nga kuan empty. Nya, akong nakita sa akong pag-umang ko na pod kay iyahang giyabo-yabo ang tubig sa pikas na baso. Kuan ma'am kanang dili bitaw dili mausik ang tubig nga iyahang na nayabo sa isa ka baso. Next, 49 to 60 months, feeds self using fingers without spillage, prepares own food, dresses without assistance including buttoning and tying. So sa 3 to 5 years old, kanang sila nang ang akong igagaw na pod is kanang daghan magud ko igagaw. So kato siya na bata kay kanang siya na magpili og sanina niya gusto siya kanang gwapo daw siya perminti so magpili siya og kanang iyahang pants then polo then siya na din ang mag-ilis pero magpatabang siya sa ako mag-close sa buttons and sa tying laces is sa iyahang shoes. Next slide. The role of caregivers in the growth and development of the preschooler of all preschoolers. For preschoolers, they engage preschool children in simple games that involve running and walking. So basic ra gud na mga dula-dula like running and walking para lang pud ma-exercise ilahang tuhod. Kay para kung mulakaw sila dili sila dali matumba. Provide them with toys or catching and throwing such as soft large balls and bean bags. So provide na pud kanang mga gagmay ra pud na mga bola like murag plastic man ata to nga bola or rubbers. Kay para dili ra pud kayo sakit if kuan sa ilaha maigo. Having balanced activities for preschoolers, use low balance beam and lines on the classroom floor or playground. Next, allow opportunities such as rough and tumble play like grassy area or soft mats. Ensure that preschoolers get enough rest and sleep. So, after magdula-dula sa mga bata, dapat magkuan pud sila, mag-rest pud sila kadali kay basig hangakon niya. Wa ka balo daday giasma didto ag. Tapos kapuyo na dayon siya. Model good eating habits to preschoolers. So, kung ikaw pud na kay makauban nimo bata, ang imuha pong pangkaonon dapat kay kadang mga healthy nga foods. Kung junk foods pud imuhang makuan, makita nila sa imuha nga mao to imuhang gipangkaon. Mao pud tong ilahang kanang gusto baonon perminti. For 3 year next is 3 years old. 3-year-old kids. Encourage development of hand-eye coordination by providing large buttons or old beads to string on a shoelace. Play ball. Show children how to hop like a rabbit, tiptoe like a bird, and waddle like a duck. So, imuha silang tudlan kung unsaon pagka kanang pag tama bitaw nga way sa paghap kay basig nya, pero alalayan pud nimo sila kay para makabalo sila unsaon jud. Encourage free expression in art objects. Avoid asking what children are drawing. 3-year-old may not know or care, but they mag-enjoy sila mag-draw. Wala sila kabalo ana, pero pero usahay kay imuha siyang kanang alalayan bitaw nga kana imong gidrawing kay circle ana. Provide a variety of art experiences. Make play-doh. Kanang sa play-doh kay dapat na adyo ka magdulaan na kay basi uban kay ilahang ikuan sa ilahang baba. Next is 4-year-old. Encourage physical development. Play follow the leader. Sa ingana nga kuan is kadang tahay na kay kuan na kay TV kadang dako. So mag-show ka pod ka og kanang videos nga mag-exercise ang kanang mga bata din ha sa kuan sa YouTube. Ilaha ka pod dayong sundugon niya. Ang kanang nga kuan is kanang uso kayo na sa mga 1 to 5-year-old. Kay kana sila kay magsige og cellphone ang uban, pero kung ako na mo bantay pud sa kung may gagaw, dapat wala jud cellphone, tapos ako wala po koy cellphone. So nakoy mga background sa mga kuan kung unsay kanang dapat nilang kantahon or sayawon. Since kuan mag-observe po ko sa kung mama mag-teach siya ang mga students. Set up an obstacle course in indoors with challenges as crawling, climbing, leaping, balancing, and running across the stepping stones. Encourage walking in a beanbag out the head. So kanang mga pud mo nagdula-dula pero napod sila ma-learn ana after sa inyong activity. Last is 5-year-olds. Encouraging body coordination and sense of balance by playing follow the leader. So mo ta akong giingon kay na magsundog sila sa kanang imo hapong gibuhat, like mo-touch ka sa imong hands. So mo-touch pud sila sa ilang hands, das tudlaan dayon na nimo sila kung unsa na nga part sa imong body, then kung mag-ambak pud ka, mag-ambak pud sila kay mo may hang nakita sa imuha. Teach kanang stage or freeze games to provide an outlet for the drive for physical activity. So mura kag kanang manikin nga mga kuan nga dula-dula. Play games that teach left directions, like Simon Says. So ingana kay kanang Simon Says kanang stand up, so tindog pud sila, magsunod-sunod na pud sila sa imo. Help children learn to use pair of scissors by letting them cut out coupons. So kaning nga kuan is sa mga 5 na gyud ni pataas kay kung pagunito na nimo kuan ang uban kay mga bata kay basig unsa na poy magunting. Pagiha sa ako sa una, nga hilabot ko gunting tapos putlan day nako akong buhok niya. Wala gigamay jud kayo akong buhok. So kanang dapat pud ipangtago pud ang mga scissors after maggamit or kana sa 5-year-old mag-assist ka sa ilaha kung usaon pagunting anak at para makabalo sila unsa after Hanela.
Si Kyla na. Kai?
Yes. Audible. I am audible.
Yes, Kai.
Yes.
Topic: Big idea about preschoolers' cognitive development. 1. Preschoolers engage in symbolic and intuitive thinking. 2. Brain connections are made with preschoolers interact with the environment. 3. Preschoolers' language development occurs in four areas: phonology, semantics, syntax, and pragmatics. Vygotsky believed that language and social interactions are very important to cognitive development. 5. Preschoolers improve in their ability in process information. 6. Preschoolers' cognitive development is marked by the emergency of the theory of mind. Next, preschooler symbolic and intuitive thinking. There are two substages of Piaget's pre-operational thoughts, namely symbolic substage and intuitive substage. In the symbolic stage, preschoolers children show progress in their cognitive abilities by being able to draw objects that are not present, by their dramatic increase in their language and make-believe play. In intuitive stage, preschool children begin to use primitive reasoning and ask a litany of questions. The development in their language ability facilitates their endless asking of questions. While preschool children exhibit considerable cognitive development, their improved cognitive processes still show some aspect of immaturity or limitations. Brain connections. In the preschool years, because of fascinating development in neuroscience, brain development of young children has been of great interest to the field of early childhood brain research. Findings point of two more effective ways to care for and teach preschoolers from science lessons composed of numerous cells called neuron and connection to each other to function. Cell connection are what we call synapses, sometimes also referred to as synaptic connection. Fun facts: the human brain contains some 50 billion neurons at birth. By age 2, children have developed half of the brain cells connection that will be made during one lifetime. Around 6 years of age, the brain develops for more sophisticated thinking patterns. Next, language development. Young children's understanding sometimes gets ahead of their speech. As children go through early childhood, their grasp of the rules of language increases: morphology, semantics, pragmatics. Symbolic thinking involves language literacy and dramatic play. Children rapidly conclude that sounds link together to make words, and words represents ideas, people, and things. Throughout the preschool years, children language development becomes increasingly complex in the four main areas: phonology, speech sounds, semantics, word meaning, syntax, sentence construction, and pragmatics, conversation or social use of language. As they advance in age, as they continuously interact with people, preschool children expand rapidly in their vo- vocabulary through fast mapping and process by which children absorb the meaning of a new word after hearing it once or twice in conversation. Preschool children combine syllables into words and words into sentence in an increasingly sophisticated manner. Next, Language and social interaction. Vygotsky believed that young children use language both to communicate socially and to plan, guide, and monitor their behavior in self-regulator fashion, called inner speech or private speech. For Piaget, private speech is egocentric and immature, but for Vygotsky, it is an important tool of thought during early childhood. Full cognitive development requires social interaction and language. Children must use language to communicate with others before they can focus on their own thought. This implies the importance of interaction of preschoolers with caregivers for language development. Vygotsky asserted that preschooler children are unable to achieve their highest cognitive development, language development included, on their own, and that they can improve their cognitive development throughout use of scaffolding for more skilled children and adults. He introduced the term zone of proximal development (ZPD) to refer to as lower limit of ZPD is the level of cognitive development reached by the preschool. Independently, the upper limit is the level of additional responsibility the child can accept with assistance of an able instructor. Next, information processing theory, attention and memory. The information processing model is another way of examining and understanding how children develop cognitively. This model conceptualizes children's mental processes through the metaphor of a computer processing, encoding, storing, and decoding data. In short, in short term, memory is TM retain information for up to 15 to 30 seconds, assuming there is no rehearsal, which can help keep information in STM for a much longer period. Differences in memory span occurs across the age due to A. Rehearsal and B. Speed of efficiency C. Of processing information. Older children rehearse one more than younger children. On this count, preschool children may have shorter memory span than primary and intermediate pupils. The speed with which a children processes information is an important aspect of the child's cognitive abilities. Between the age of 2 and 5, long-term memory also begins to form, which is why most people cannot remember anything in them prior to age 2 or 3. Part of long-term memory involves storing information about the sequence of events during familiar situation as scripts. Scripts can help children understand, interpret, and predict what will happen in
Mm. What is happening, Kayla?
nawala akong kuan
Ah,
ma'am, hina ang signal.
okay. Mm. Who is the next to kuan, Kayla?
Oh,
Hanit, hanit
Anile?
mo lang, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Onilit. Kasi di
Hanit.
na kabalik si Kuan, Kayla?
Nawala yung internet, ma'am.
Oo.
Sige, ako na lang, ani. Basahan po na ako. Okay, continue na ako, ma'am. The young child, by the way, am I audible, ma'am? Am I audible?
Yes.
The young children's theory of mind. Theory of minds refers to individuals' thoughts about how mental processes work. By the age of 2 or 3, children become aware that the mind exists. These refer to needs, emotions, and mental states. As their representations of the world and ability to remember and solve problems improve, children start to reflect on their own thought processes. They begin to construct a theory of mind or a set of ideas about mental activities. This develops markedly between the ages of 3 and 5. It includes awareness of one's own thought processes, social cognition, understanding that people can hold false belief, ability to deceive, ability to distinguish appearance from reality, and ability to distinguish fantasy from reality. Social experience includes early forms of communication. Next, imitation. Number 3, make believe play. Number 4, language and social interaction. Next, please. Pre-reading and math matching. Standard 1.1. The child is able to match identical object, color, shapes, and symbol. And ano ba yun? In 31 to 36 months, 2 to 1/2 to 3 years old, matches identical object with two attributes, matches identical uppercase and lowercase letters, and 37 to 48 months, 3 to 4 years old, copies simple patterns with two or more attributes, and continues this without guidance. Next, recognize familiar logos like McDonald's, Coke, and etc. Like, for example, like Jollibee, when the child makita sila ng logo sa Jollibee, oh, ang Jollibee na siya, ano sila, makabalo din sila. Next is matches identical, next, identical, next, pre-reading. Kapit na. Wait. Standard, asa natatapit? Pre-reading and math copying letters, numbers. Standard 1.2, the child is able to recite the alphabet and numbers in sequence. They can count 1 to 10 or more and sing the alphabet. Like, next is 37 to 48 months or 3 to 4 years old. Prints uppercase letters with a model with some reversals. Kanang itong, sige, okay, 48 to 60 months, 4 to 5 years old, prints complete name without model, prints uppercase letter with a model with no reversals, prints lowercase letters with a model with some reversals. Then prints number 1 to 5 with a model with some reversals. Next is 61 to 71 months, 5 to 6 years old. Print uppercase and lowercase letters without a model and with no reversals. Prints number 1 to 5 without a model and no reversals. They can write their full name, write small and big letters, and even can make numbers without reversals. Next is the domain, cognitive development. Next, please. Okay. Number 1 is attention and activity level. Standard 1. The child is able to sustain attention and modulate his activity at age expected levels. In attention and activity level, when the child is in 31 to 36 months or 2 to 1/2 to 3 years old, Um, they can complete simple tasks without prodding. Yung they don't need to push or kailangan pa i-motivate to do their task. Is it 37 to 48 or 3 to 4 years old may be distracted but focuses on his or her own. Remain settled while listening to a story using picture books for 5 minutes. Remain settled while lifting through a picture book for 5 minutes. Sustains attention and concentration on the tabletop activity for 10 minutes. Can work on a school assignment with minimal supervision. 49 to 60 months or 4 to 5 years old, sustain attention and concentration on the tabletop activity for 15 to 20 minutes. Can work on a school assignment with minimal supervision. 61 to 71 months, can work on school assignment independently. They don't need guidance na pero lagi. Um, higher next okay. Higher ordered mental abilities. Concept formation. Standard 1. The child develops basic concept pertaining the object constancy, space, time, quantity, seriation, etc. and uses this as the basis for understanding how material are categorized in his or her environment. The cause and effect relationship, standard 1, the child is able to understand the cause and effect relationship, like understanding why or she is a part of the family. Memory, episodic memory. Standard 1, the child is able to recall people he has met, events, and places he has been to. Like for example, isang 2 years na ni, like, for example, na scenario na ang yung parent is abroad and then isang 2 years na to na kung bata pa siya gibiyaan, isang 2 years pa to siya gibiyaan, or 2 years old pa siya na, pag awat sa iyang mama after sa pag makauli na is makarecognize gihapon ta siya nga makabalo siya nga ihat tong mama. Next is memory. Memory for concept-based knowledge, semantic memory. Standard 1, the child is able to store verbal information in short and long-term memory. Logical reasoning. Standard 1, the child is able to follow the logic of events, reasons why this happened, and draw the accurate conclusion by evaluating the facts presented to him. Children can follow the logic of events and, when questioned, may provide accurate conclusion based on the data shown to them. Planning and organizing. Standard 1, the child is able to plan and organize a simple, familiar activity. For example, the child is separated his toy and put it to boxes and arrange it to the corners. Creative thought. The child is able to generate new ideas or concepts or new associations between existing ideas or concepts. Most of them paint while playing with paints and brushes, and they make things out of stuff they have around the house. Next is cognitive flexibility. The child is able to shift to more adaptive cognitive processing strategies in order to effectively deal with a new unexpected condition in his or her environment, including problem situation. The ability to change their behavior and thinking and reaction to our surroundings when students are required to consider numerous concepts at the same time or to adjust their approach to addressing issue, they must display flexible thinking. Next is the role of caregivers, parents, and teachers in a cognitive development preschoolers. Next, yan. Please. Okay. Below are some appropriate practices that help develop the cognitive skills of the preschoolers. When the preschoolers is 3 years old, ang roles of parents and teachers or mga basta caregivers is speak with the children as often as possible, like short sentences, ask question, and listen. Next is add new information to children's sentences. Example, um, mag-ask ang children of, is that a flower? Then tubago nato na, yes, that's a flower. Then add more information like, it's tall, red flower, and it smells good. So they can learn new information about the things na I mean curious sila ng thing. Next is teach children to memorize first and last names o ilang pangalan. Provide books for children to read and read the same books to them. E. Encourage interest in reading and writing by sharing a grocery list or notes for parents. Provide small notebooks and markers for use in dramatic play. Count object of interest. For example, cookies, cups, or dolls. Kay most of the children is interested sila ani kanang mga cookies, cups, ana ang dolls sila na ipon-ipon. Mas interest sila, mas dali sila maka-learn ana. Explain why and how things happen with the help of reference book. Okay. Provide sets, toys, and other objects that go together. Um, Sing simple song like Nana. Next is the 4 years old. Pag 4 years old ang mga bata, nani po, maglalahi man ni sila og saan pagtudlo. Okay. Next is read aloud each day and encourage children to look at books on their own. Provide alternative reading materials with a collection of outdated coupons, junk mail, newspaper ads, and old cereal boxes. Anong mga available or katong mga nakaraan na nga mga newsletters, mga nato, mga sulan sa gatas, di ba na yung mga label sa likod, ipapasabasa sa ilaha. Say nursery rhymes and finger plays together. Like magkanta-kanta ng uso karon like ang nasa internet lagi mga kokomelon ganon. And then encourage interest with writing and words. Teach children the correct use of telephone. Then encourage them to help you plan and plant a garden. They will love to water plants daily and will enjoy measuring plant growth. Next is 5 years old. Okay, when they're 5 years old, nani po, lahi man stage ang pag-guide sa ka-parent, depende sa ilahang age and development skills. 5 years old, add drama to the reading session each day by using different voices for different characters. While reading a familiar story, stop before the end and ask children to add their own end to the story. Next is ask them to tell a story. Write it down and post it on the wall of refrigerator. You can also record the child telling the story and let him listen to himself later. Kung ginana is para sa akong experience ako manghod is nalipay siya may manang maminaw sa iyahang tingog, so gusto na po siya mo utol na po record na po mabasa-basa siya ana. Next is ask what if questions. Involve children in writing thank you notes, holiday greeting cards and letters. Give them opportunities to short, group, match, count, and sequence with a real life situation, such as setting the table, counting numbers of turns, sorting out sacks, and matching fabric swatches. Expose them to game involving matching pairs. Take questions seriously. Talk to children about what happened and why. Give answers they can understand. Um, 5-year-old shows an increasing interest in numbers, encouraging them to count anything of interest like cup, leaves, drum, bells, numbers of children absent, and etc. Encourage interest in jokes, nonsense, and riddles by reading humorous story, riddles, and nonsense rhymes. Um, Last is give opportunities to express dramatic and creative interest. Teach children how to move their bodies to dramatize the opening of a flower, falling leaves or rain, wiggly worms and snake, and laundry blowing in the wind. Caregivers can help children develop more effectively by engaging them in these techniques. techniques which can capture the children's interest. As the result, the kids will be eager to participate and actively carry out their responsibilities. This is the end of topic 3, cognitive development the preschooler. Thank you. May I call the next presenter, please?
So, good morning, everyone. Am I
Okay.
audible?
Diana.
Morning.
Yes.
Okay, I will start. Topic 3, the social emotional development of preschoolers. The big ideas about preschoolers' social emotional development. The development of initiative is crucial to the preschooler. A healthy self concept is needed for preschoolers to interact with others. Environmental factors influence gender identity in young children. Preschoolers' social development is shown through the stage of play. The caregivers, styles of parents, and teachers affect the preschooler's social emotional development. And number 6, preschoolers are interested in building friendships. Preschoolers' initiative. Erickson's view of initiative aptly portrays the emotional and social changes that happen during preschool years. Preschoolers deal with psychological conflict of initiative versus guilt. In the third stage, during this stage of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development, children assert themselves more frequently through playing and social interaction. That makes them explore their interpersonal skills through initiating activities. Children plan activities, make up games, and initiate activities with others. As preschoolers go through the conflict of initiative versus guilt, they show so much energy in doing imaginative play activities. Every place becomes a playground to explore, and every single thing an interesting piece to tinker with. At the same time, children may also feel guilt, but guilt is necessary so that they exercise self-control or have a conscience. The key thing to remember is to apply judicious permissiveness. This involves setting realistic boundaries that keep preschoolers safe and respectful of self and others, while allowing them greater opportunities to explore, take risks, and to engage in creative processes. Preschoolers will develop a healthy sense of initiative in an affirming, encouraging, and stimulating environment. Self concept and the preschooler. Concept and the preschooler by the end of toddlerhood, preschoolers come out with a clear sense that they are separate with distinct persons. With their ability to make representations, they can now think and reflect about themselves. Self concept refers to the way one sees himself, a general view about one's abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. The preschooler self concept mainly focuses on observable characteristics of his and her or her usual beliefs, emotions, and attitudes. An important aspect of self concept is self esteem, which specifically refers to one's judgment about one's worth. Preschoolers are naturally positive. Usually, they will tend to evaluate their skills with high and underestimate the task. They are confident to try again, even if they don't succeed with something. So the environmental factors and gender in the preschool emotional development. As preschoolers' ability to create schemas develop, they become capable of gender typing. The process of forming gender roles, gender-based preferences, and behaviors accepted by society. So gender typing is how a child attributes his or herself with a gender. Whichever gender it is may be the same as biological sex that the child was born with. For example, a male child may attribute himself to the male gender by growing up and wanting to be a stereotypical man. Gender typing and gender identity are influenced by environmental factors such as family, teacher, peers, the mass media, culture, and laws and customs. This this is where Brunfred Bronfman Brothers model comes into play. Different spheres of influence determine the preschooler's development of a gender schema. Differences in parental expectations and behavior towards daughter and sons affect gender typing and gender activity. Identity. The important stages of play. Play is the main agenda of the preschool years. Play has a social dimension as the preschoolers develop social interaction with playmates increases. Number one, unoccupied. The child appears not to be playing but directs his attention on anything interesting him. Number two, the onlooker. The child spends time watching others play. He may talk to them but does not enter into the play with them. Solitary play. The child spends time watching others play. He may talk to them but does not enter into play with them. Parallel play. The child plays with toys similar to those near him, but only plays beside and not with them. No interaction takes place. Associative play. The child plays
Shows
with
how
others. There is interaction among them, but no task assignment, rules, and organization are agreed upon. Number six, cooperative. The child plays with others, bound by some agreed upon the rules and role. The goal is maybe to make something, play a game, or act out something. The friendships in preschool. As they continue to grow, preschoolers become interested in having friends. This should be encouraged in preschool years as friendship benefit the preschooler's development by providing stimulation, assistance, companionship, social comparison, and affection. Through friendship, preschoolers are able to practice different social roles like being a leader, a follower, someone who takes risks, and someone who helps out and comforts. Friendships are very important because they provide added sense of belongingness and security. In preschool, children start to play more with others and begin to form friendships. They learn how to take turns, share, and include others at home in their classroom. Doing what other children may want to do, understanding the way others feel, and playing group games are and participating in group activities are some of the first things children do when they learn how to build and develop friendships.
are able to
Caregiving styles. Caregivers have refer both parents and teachers and even other adults that care for the child. Baumrind gave a model that describes the different types of caregiving styles. This was based on a longitudinal study that looked into the adult authority and development of the children that Baumrind conducted, which began in the 1960s. First one is authoritative. It has high demandingness and high responsiveness. Permissive, low demandingness, high responsiveness. Negligent, low demandingness, and has low responsiveness. And authoritarian, high demandingness and low responsiveness. Responsiveness refers to caregiver behaviors that pertain to expression of affection and communication. It refers to how warm, caring, and respectful the adult is to the child. It involves openness in communication and willingness to explain things in ways that the child will understand. Demandingness refers to the level of control and expectations. This involves discipline and confrontation strategies. So a quick look at what preschoolers can do. Expression of basic emotions, 3 to 4 years. Expresses what he or she likes, expresses what he or she dislikes, and can talk about difficult feelings that, that include anger, sadness, and worry. Self-regulation of feelings or emotion, willing to try something in order to learn more, even if unsure of a successful outcome. perseverance when faced with challenging or new tasks, accepts brief delays in gratification, accepts defeat well, is not a sore loser, may have some fears but is not overly fearful, anxious, and nervous, may feel sad at times but not to the point when he or she is depressed. Display of self-appraisal emotion that includes shame, pride, and guilt. Plays to learn a game. Plays to gain a mastery of a game. Show pleasure and enjoyment over his or her successful attempts or efforts. Confidently join small groups, especially if situation is competitive. 6. Assistance from an adult or child to solve a problem. Receptivity to others' emotion. In 37 to 48 months, a child may feel others' distress and acts appropriately, emerging sense of self, knowing of self and basic roles of people in the environment, talks about parts of the body and their function, talks about specific abilities and characteristics, describes what primarily caregiver can do, what they like and don't like, defend possessions with determination, can give reasons or justify why he or she acted that way he or she did, forming attachments, showing preference for the company of significant adults and children over unfamiliar adults and children interaction with other children, plays with two or three children using the same play equipment, participates in game with other children but plays in his own way, chats, converses with other children, takes turns and share toys with others, actively participates in classroom and group routines, and play organized group games fairly. Interaction with adults. Verbalizes feelings related to events that arise in classroom, home, and environment in a positive way. Speaks respectfully with adults using po and opo and or appropriate titles. Recognizes the importance of adults' ideas and experience by listening and asking questions when they share them. Clarifies rules and routines before abiding them, sharing personal perspective when he or she does not agree with or see the value of rule and routine and can take on another person's point of view. The children also knows how pakiramdam or sensitivity is, knows when to stop asking questions when he is being makulit, cooperates to minimize conflict or tension, appreciating diversity, asks questions that indicate he or she notices differences in socioeconomic status, asks questions about new or different words and practices, talks about gender differences and roles,
Hello,
regards
hello, Kuan, Miss Martilino.
so
Last na ka nga reporter or
Say.
yes, last na ma'am.
ala? Okay, sige. Sige,
So,
continue to.
madungganin mo.
So the role of caregivers in social-emotional development of the preschooler. Greet each child with his or her names each day. Be sincere and respectful to each child. Read storybooks that deal about friendships and different feelings. Develop routines in home or school that encourage working together and getting along. Help children learn to play. Help children learn to make rules and play in small groups. Play games that involve social interaction and teamwork. Observe how a child plays with other children. Teach him to request, bargain, negotiate, and apologize. Help children understand and cope with strong feelings by giving them words that they can use to express how they feel. Like, I can see you are sad about your pet, angry at your sister. Use dolls, puppets, or pictures. Demonstrate to children how to express feelings appropriately. Acknowledge how the children feels and catch children doing good. Affirm the efforts they make to accomplish something. Read storybooks that deals about friendship, and for teachers, develop routines that encourage working together. So that ends our the topic for
chapter 4 about preschoolers. Okay, so shall we move now to any question about preschoolers concepts? Okay, shall we move now to the primary schoolers? Hello.
Morning classmates. Good morning ma'am.
Yes, good morning.
According po sa previous announcement di mo ma'am nga
Ah,
limited to 10 minutes lang ang
oo. Yeah.
pag-report.
So you're
We
going to follow. You are going to follow ang inyong grupo.
we had been decided ma'am nga mag-video
Roma,
na lang
kami
ma'am
pa Roma.
para ay kamo ba day? Sorry.
Module 5 pa.
Oo,
Okay. Okay, okay.
dili pa intermediate, kuan pa, primary pa, module 5.
Ay sorry ma'am.
Permelin.
Intermediate and high school will be on April 19, last synchronous.
So good morning, classmates. Good morning, Professor Vivinia. For today, we're going to report on Module 5, the middle childhood or the primary schooler. So by the way, I am Ivones Pablo together with my group mates Justin Aquila, Fermilin Parpan, Andrea May or Julio. Next, please.
Ganahan
The
ko
middle childhood.
Ganahan ko Ivon nga napakita ka sa imong kuan, open ka sa imong camera. Okay. Sige.
Middle childhood refers to the period in between ages of 6 to 12 when a child's physical, emotional, and social development takes place. In comparison to infants in infancy or early childhood, children at this age receive less attention. During this stage of development, the support of family and friends is essential. Next, please. For the first topic is about the physical development of the primary pupil. So physical development involves many different factors, includes height, weight, appearance, visual, hearing, and motor abilities. So primary school children undergo many different changes as they go through this stage of development. This could be caused by different factors, both natural and environment. Physical growth during the primary school years is slow but steady. So during this stage, physical development involves having good muscle control and coordination, developing eye-hand coordination, having good personal hygiene, and being aware of good safety habits. Next, please. So height and weight. In this development stage, children will have started their elementary grades, specifically their primary years, grades 2 to 3. Children will have time to adjust to the changes in their bodies during this phase of gradual and steady growth. So an average increase in height of a little over 2 inches a year in both boys and girls will introduce them to many different activities that they can now do with greater accuracy. Weight gain averages about 6.5 pounds a year. So most children will have slimmer appearance compared to their preschool years. So there are a number of factors that could indicate how much a child grows or how much changes in the body takes place. So this includes the genes, food intake, climate, exercises, medical conditions, and diseases or illness. So bones and muscles. Childhood years are the peak bone producing years. This is the best time to teach children of good dietary and exercise habits to help them have strong, healthy bones throughout their lives. So because children's bones have proportionately more water and protein-like materials and fewer minerals than adults, ensuring adequate calcium intake will greatly help them in strengthening bones and muscles. So next, please. So this will be continued by Miss Justin Nakila.
Good
Okay.
morning, everyone. I will discuss this motor development to you. So we already know naman that motor development is the physical growth and strengthening of a child's bones, muscles, and ability to move and touch his or her surroundings. And at this point or stage, children loves to move a lot. They run, skip, hop, jump, tumble, roll, and dance. So these are, and because at this stage they like testing their muscle strength and skills, and they've already developed their gross motor skills. So performing unimanual. This requires the use of one hand. An example for this is kanang dart throwing bitaw, and the bimanual is require the use of two hands. For example, is playing the violin. And if you ask, and the graphic activities of children in this stage is still developing pa. If you ask unsa na ang graphic activities is mo na siya ang drawing and writing. So, motor development skills include coordination, balance, speed, agility, and power. Next, coordination is a series of movement organized and timed to occur in a particular way. So, pag maingon tag coordination is children develop eye-hand and eye-foot coordination. Example ani nga activities is kanang dribbling a ball, di ba na siya eye-hand coordination ana sa mag-dribble ka og ball, di ba kasagaran sa primary pupil is gadula og basketball na or gag-dribble na sa mga gadribble sa ball. Next is balance is the child's ability to maintain the equilibrium or stability of his or her body in different positions. So there are two types of balance, static balance and dynamic balance. Static balance maintain in fixed position. Ang example ani is standing in one foot lang bitaw. Mo na siya ang activity diri sa static balance. While ang dynamic balance is maintain while moving. Kanang example ani nga activity is walking in parallel bars. Next is speed, is the ability to cover a great distance in the shortest possible time. Ang example aning speed nga activity is kabalo naman tano kanang dagan or running sprinty ay kanang dagan mo dagan. And next is agility, is one's ability to quickly change or shift the direction of the body. Ang example ani is kanang activity sa mga primary ay pupil is kanang tic-tac-toe, and the power is the ability to perform a maximum effort in the shortest possible period. Ang example ani is kanang medicine balls, throwing and catching medicine balls. It can help to increase the power in the upper extremities of the child. Next. Next po. So, the next will be report by Ms. Parpan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Permilin.
So, let's proceed. What is cognitive development of primary schoolers? The way children think, explore, and figure things out is referred to as cognitive development. In a simplest definition, cognitive development is a development of knowledge that will help children to think about and understand the world around them. Next slide. Okay, Piaget's concrete operational stage. In Piaget's theory of cognitive development, the concrete operation is the third stage. It is in this developmental stage children have a understanding of their thinking skills. They begin to think logically about concrete events, particularly their own experience.